I think, won Best in Variety, right? Is that right? Best in Variety?
Oh, I missed my card.
No, we were talking about Krugerrand when we were looking at the Supreme Champions. This is where Krugerrand came from. You can see the dimension that the scales have. The Ogons, pretty much it seems, are born with it. The other varieties, the Gosanki types, as Richard was saying, develop it with age. But this is a very good example of Krugerrand. You can see it almost looks three-dimensional. The scales jump out at you. That's the skin in between the scales has different sort of a depth to it. A little bit thin, but very nice quality, good metallic. With all the metallics, we're looking primarily with any variety. There's certain criteria that we're looking at that variety that has to fit in well with the conformation and the other skin quality and so forth. With the metallics, we're going to look along the dorsal ridge of the backbone. We're going to look at the pectoral fins. We're going to look at the head. Those are the areas that are most enhanced by the metallic look. She's very strong in all of those areas.
Can I ask a couple questions about this? So, you said that she's a little thin.
Yeah.
My pond is 7,000 gallons. I keep a circulating, I have 2 filter systems, blah, blah, blah. So I keep a circulating pump in this pond that's like 4,200 gallons. It sits, my pond's basically square, and so it sits in and it circles up. Like the Kiatsuri that's over there, and her are about the same age. Am I shorting myself by keeping that current in there? If she didn't have that current, would she be bulking up a little bit more? This fish is 4 years old now, so am I going backwards with the current in the pond?
I don't know that I have the answer. I've had Japanese breeders visit my place where I was experimenting with different type systems and amounts of current off, and they've told me I've had too much current in some of my fiddling around. So I just changed the way things did, and I didn't have as much. I don't know how much current is ideal. If you look in the aquaculture literature, they've got all these formulas for high density fish where you have to have a certain flow, like body length, meters per second off. That's all way too high for koi. So we know it's less than that. But I don't know what the optimal amount is. I think it's good to have some, but I'm not sure what that magic number is.
Dick Gunbo and I have become friends over the last few months, and he was telling me that when Kintaro came to his house and he looked at his ponds and he said, I like your fish, but I don't like your pond, because he had lots of current in his pond. When Dick told me that, he said because Mr. Kintaro told him that the fish need a place to rest. When my fish sleep in this pond, my pond, they find quiet little eddies, or they'll lay under the current line or something. And so I've been, since he said this a few weeks ago, I've been, because I'm thinking the fish should be bulking up some, but I just don't know if I'm fighting myself.
What's your water temperature now?
88.
Well, they're not going to eat now. We're not eating much. Yeah, I mean, it's too warm. You're not going to do anything as far as, no matter how good. When you're much above 84, most fish eat very little, and their metabolic rates and such are that you're just kind of in a holding pattern until your temperature comes down.
So she boo-booed her tail on the way down. What do I need to do with that?
Time.
Time. Okay.
So what about with the current issue? I was wondering if your koi has the genetics for the tail tube, can you help the genetics along by a strong current, by having them something to swim into? You know,
when people do the current, they want to have, as previously mentioned, some areas where you don't have as high a current.
Because I'm doing in a 6,000 gallon pond 20 feet long, 8 feet by 6 feet deep, I've got 18,000 gallons an hour of turnover going through 4 different pumps. So there's still a lot of head. So minus head pressure, but I have quite a bit of current. And I'm doing a 10% trickle through a day as well. But I was wondering the same thing. And my idea of that much current was thinking that I could increase the musculature of the fish.
I don't know. I think probably equally important to current is oxygenation levels.
Right.
And if you're using the current and high flows to provide high oxygen, that probably plays a large role. Other people will do that with heavy duty aeration, either standalone aerators where you're, the fountain type, Casco type, the paddle wheels, or heavy aerators. But when your water temperature goes up, your oxygen carrying capacity of the water goes way down.
Yeah, I'm along the same lines of him.
So
my water temperature is
really,
about the
you
same.
almost probably have to have that water almost boiling.
Yeah, well, I have
to keep things saturated.
Yeah, I have my. Go ahead. Yeah, I have my 80 liter aerator. I have a cascading waterfall in, then I have a shower filter as well. So that's about as much oxygen as I can get in there now.
If you have opportunities where you can measure your DO in hot weather, I flew to some of this in Florida when we had hot water.
Right.
And I can tell you that on a personal level, I had one system which was essentially a plywood tank, maybe 4,000 gallons with a Maki type shower and just recirculate. And I thought that would be plenty for 4,000 gallons, everything circular turnover, and it wasn't.
Okay,
my DOs were down around 4 when I thought I was doing everything right.
Well, I have a drop test oxygen tester. Is that probably?
I haven't used it.
No idea. Yeah.
I use a meter.
Yeah, I haven't.
I have some other systems, but I haven't.
Right. I was wondering between the cascading waterfall, the shower, and the aerator.
It sounds like you're doing everything, but some of the Japanese breeders, I don't know what their electric bill is, but they've got huge amounts of air going into ponds, particularly in their grow-out ponds and smaller ponds in hot weather. They have huge amounts of aeration.
Yeah.
I feel that's extremely important. I
Just
can't prove
boiling water. They're just boiling.
Well, it's logical that more oxygen in the water is you get energy from oxygen.
Right.
You're energized when you're breathing pure oxygen.
But the energy can also go towards, if the energy isn't nourished, then the fish will start to feed on itself.
Well, that's the point I'm getting to, is if the fish have to have an appetite in order to grow.
Right.
They're not going to grow if they don't eat. So you want to do everything you can to encourage the fish to eat. And that includes all the things we're talking about.
That comes back to the husband.
I don't think there's too much you can do about a fish with a very thin caudal peduncle. There's a limit to what can be accomplished. It's more of a genetic thing. The old theory of let's keep the water swirling like a toilet and they swim real fast and hard and their muscles do all the work. I think there's very limited improvements that can be made outside of the genetic area. Our pond has very little movement in it. We turn it over quickly, but it's basically through a waterfall and a stream and so forth. We do have, in the winter when we turn off the waterfall that can serve heat, we have a return directly into the pond that shoots the water. The fish just love playing in that. They'll swim into it and then they'll turn and they'll take like a body surfing ride and they'll go for hours that way. But they like to go for the calm areas when it's time to swim.
Yeah, my return off of my shower, they like to do that because I have a 4-inch return, and they'll swim into it, and they'll sometimes just stay there for a while, and they'll turn and they'll jet, and then they'll go to their resting corner. And then they see, they got the current coming from all different directions. Multiple jets coming back in. But
to fill out your Ogon, she needs to eat. You need to find a food that she likes.
She's a heavy eater.
It'll come.
She's 4.
Is it female determined to be female?
The little, is there any comments on the little baby Asagi? The fish is 14 months old. Out of Kosukai breedings.
Kosukai?
Got a nice clean head.
Yeah, you don't see too many Asagi's with a white head. It's more of a gray, but the important thing, when Richard says clean, there's no blemishes on it. It's even and very nice. Clean head is important for Asagi.
I have access to seeing the parent koi to these. There's a real good friend of mine, and the female's 34 and a half, and the male's 30, almost 31.
Yeah.
They're 10 years old. This was last year's spawn. The parents have bone-colored heads that are solid. I mean, this fish, you can still see some of the, the brain through. Is that the brain area, the dark, the skull cap area? Like like some of the babies I have, you can see that dark triangle in their head, but as they get bigger, it goes away.
It goes away.
I was just curious about this little. This fish is about 4 or 5 inches bigger than its brothers and sisters. It's a very aggressive eater.
Yeah.
And I just wanted an opinion. Even if it's not a gray one, I just would like to, because I'm learning.
It's a nice Asagi. It's got some nice red accents on it. It's not essential that an Asagi have red, but it's preferable. From a judging standpoint, it adds interest to it. Some have a little bit of red along the dorsal fin, which I find to be very attractive. The Asagi and Shisui are unique in that their red will tend to spread a little bit, whereas all the other varieties don't. I'm not sure why that is, but
the father has the red dorsal, and the mother does not. But this fish's red is just now. The random scales on the sides are just now starting to pop up. So I was just curious. I'm not asking you to tell. I just wanted a professional opinion.
It's a nice Asagi. It got beat out by the other, I believe, for best of variety. The other one is just a little bit lighter. The scale reticulation was a little bit sharper, and it did have red on the dorsal fin.
Yeah, and I saw. That was the gentleman that was just talking to you here. That was his fish.
Okay.
And
well, hang on to it and grow it up and come back next year.
that's what I told him. I said, you better feed that thing because I'm going to get you next year.
That's a nice fish.
Well, thank you.
Very nice fish.
I appreciate your time. And